Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Joy of JVs with Joe Marsh and Cindi Dawson. And obviously, I'm not Joe Marsh. I'm Cindi Dawson, and
I'm Joe Marsh,
now, see,
but I'm not Cindi Dawson.
That makes more sense. So I am glad everybody's here today, and I hope you're having a great Saturday, as we already mentioned. Now, before we get started today, I need to give you something in full disclosure because I don't want to hold anything back from you. And the truth is that we will have an offer near the end of the webinar, but Joe had an excellent point as we were chatting before the webinar began. It is not really an offer. It is an invitation to join us, and I mean that in the most sincere sense of the word, because it is an offer to join us specifically, and we will be more specific about that toward the end of the webinar. So just hang in there. But before we do that, before we even share with you what we have in store for you, we're actually going to share with you some real meaty content that you can go out and apply today. And I don't mean tomorrow, I mean today. You can actually do things with it. So we're only going to show you our invitation after we have thoroughly delivered on our promise today in what we said we were going to deliver in the email. So when the time comes, we're going to be telling you about JV Dealmaker, which is an event that's going to be taking place, and we'll tell you when and where. And in this event, you will actually be introduced to potential JV partners. I mean physical people, face-to-face, who can lighten your workload, introduce you to potential new customers and clients, and make business lots easier. And Joe, would you agree that a JV lightens your workload even more than half of what you actually had to begin with? Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And it's actually not a physical half that's getting lightened. It's because everything seems to work so harmoniously and comes so much easier. It mentally takes the strain away from you, or the stress.
Yeah.
It just makes things so much easier.
I totally concur. And it's kind of like when you have a big challenge in front of you, or I don't want to call it a problem because it's not really a problem. When you have a question and you're not sure how to answer it, just having another person there to talk to about it, or to get their feedback or their input, and to send you in a different direction makes all the difference in the world. You know how many times I've asked you a question and you've said, well, what about doing it this way? And I said, why didn't I think of that?
Yep.
So
yep.
It's a totally wonderful experience. It's more than a two-way thing. It's great.
Two or more always create and get so much more than one.
Yes, I totally concur. More than the sum of its parts. I'm with you.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what we're going to discover, and then I'm going to let Joe talk to you for a second. In this webinar, we're going to discuss what is a JV, the types of JVs that you might want to participate in or learn about, because if you're not ready for that particular kind of JV right now, definitely keep it on the back burner, because it will definitely come up eventually. The benefits of a good JV, and they are almost too many to mention here today. When to JV and with whom. And by the way, when we say JV, we're talking about joint venturing, and we're going to talk about what is a joint venture in just a second. But whenever you hear us say JV, that's what we're talking about, is joint venturing with another person. Deciding if it's a good fit, and this is a huge thing. It's really very important that you get a good definition of whether or not you think you're going to work together well. We're even going to talk about using JV agreements, to, not to, whether to, anything about JV agreements, what to do after the JV, and much more. So Joe, I'm going to let you start out here. Go ahead.
Okay, so what is a JV? Technically, it's when two or more people work together as a team to accomplish something more than they could accomplish alone. Now, when you're working with a group of people and you're JVing with them, everyone has different strengths, different weaknesses. You'll typically play off of each other. You'll complement each other. And a lot of times people will not have technical skills, but they'll bring in expertise, or even the ability to look at things differently than how you look at it. And all those things are going to be beneficial to you in the long run. So if you're ready to get started, I know I am, Cindi.
Okay. Alrighty. I think that was done very well, by the way. Joe does a lovely job of explaining things. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but this is just a little thing to introduce here. He said that people complement each other, and when we say that, we mean, oh, not that, oh, you're a nice person. No, you're a nice person. We mean complete, as in complement, complete each other. And in so doing, sometimes I explain things in a lot of detail, and Joe cuts right through that and says it in a few words. So that's a perfect example of complementing each other. You don't want to always be exactly the same because it helps to be a little bit different.
Yeah,
So,
many times I will actually have to say, let me put that in shorter words because I lost you somewhere.
yeah, and he does, and he'll repeat back to me and say, you know, what I heard you saying was, and correct me if I'm wrong. And then he'll describe it, and he does it so succinctly, and it's like, why can't I do that? So it's a good thing. It's a very, very good thing. Okay, let's look at some types of JVs. There are so many, as I said, that there's just not time to go into all of them, but we're going to touch on a few of them. Excuse me. The first one is going to be a list product merge, and what I mean by that is that one person has the list of names of people who are interested or have purchased in this area, and another person has the product for this group of people. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is cross-promoting. Like each person has a product and a list in the same category or in closely related categories, and they cross-promote each other's products. So if you want to promote someone else's thing that would work well with your group and vice versa, that's a cross-promotion. Excuse me, went the wrong direction. Another idea of a different type of JV is you can do a JV once, or you can do them in an ongoing way with the same person over and over again. However, you really need to start with once because you don't want to commit yourself for a long, long time if you're not sure that it's going to be a good mix. You also can co-create a product. Now, I have to stop here for a second. This is how Joe and I got started. We first talked about even working together about, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like 3 years ago. It might have been more than, I know it was more like 3.5 years ago. Wasn't it?
Possibly. I'm not sure. I don't keep track of time very well.
I know. But I'm thinking it was like, I think that's right, about 3.5 years ago. And we just happened to stumble onto the fact in just visiting, literally visiting over a meal one night, we happened to stumble onto the fact that we were both headed the same direction. And I was about to create a piece of software, or needed to, and he was thinking about creating a piece of software. And we said, hey, what do you want yours to do? So we compared notes, and our software was almost identical. I mean, it wasn't piece by piece exactly the same thing. His market was different from my market, but it was the same system. And we said to ourselves, we said, this is cool. So we said, well, what if we combined our efforts and came up with a piece of software that would work for both of us? And that's what we ended up doing. And we ended up creating the software with his group in mind and my group in mind. And the same software did the same thing for both groups of people. But it was really cool because it cut down on our expenses of creating it. It cut down on our testing because we each tested it, found things that the other one didn't. And it was a great experience. So co-creating a product is a great way to go if you're interested in putting something together that's bigger than yourself. Another kind of JV is brokering. Brokering is putting two people together. Think of it this way. It's almost like matching a person with the perfect job. You know, there are some people out there who want to apply for every job in the world, and they're not qualified for every job in the world. Brokering is like being the employment person. You're the person who knows about the jobs, and you're the person who knows about the applicants, and you match them up to be the perfect fit. So if you know of people who have a list or people who have a product and they would work well together, or they both have a product and they're working with the same type of niche or the same type of market, you might want to put them together. That's brokering. Usually in those types of situations, you get a cut. But, you know, we're not going to go into the details of that. I'm just letting you know that's another way of JVs. The last way is referrals. Let's say you meet someone and they work in a closely related field, but not exactly in your field, and vice versa. Or they do one part of a system and you do another part. Let me just give you an example. Like they do web design and you do graphic design. Okay, so they do the web setup, like they do WordPress or something like that, and you do graphics. You could refer people to each other. And although you're not working directly with each other, creating a project together, you're basically kind of cross-promoting or referring your services to the other person. Joe, do you have anything else to add to this?
Yeah, you had mentioned like the tech stuff, people coming together and matching the skills and stuff like that. And we're going to talk more about this in a little bit. But don't forget, a lot of people that have the expertise but not the tech skills. So if you guys have the tech skills, don't be afraid to partner up with somebody with the expertise, because it's going to be a great chance to move on into other niches that you may not have even thought about.
Excellent point. Okay. Joe, you want to take it from here?
Yep. Now, the benefits of a good JV: time. This right here is a tremendous benefit. Not only are you reducing the amount of work that you're doing because you're splitting duties and responsibilities, but you're actually going to get it done quicker too, because you have a sense of accountability to each other, and you know that you're responsible to them, because if you don't do your part, it could fail. Just like they know if they don't do their part, it could fail. And we all know in the internet world, we can easily get BSO, bright shiny object syndrome.
I didn't know what that was going to be. That surprised me too.
And it is easy to get sidetracked, and when you're working on something by yourself, it can very easily drag out. But when you're partnering and JVing with others, it helps to keep you on track and on time.
I concur.
Yep. The workload, just like I mentioned, you can split responsibilities, and you may be doing things that you're not proficient at, and you may be doing things that you are proficient at. This is also a good time to learn while you're doing those things. So you can, again, it's all a complementary type thing. You're going to hear that a lot throughout this presentation, but again, it saves you on the workload. This gives you an opportunity to get in front of new customers and new clients. You have your list, you have your friends, your acquaintances, you have the places you hang out, just like your partners or partner does. They have their list, their places they hang out, the people they know. And this right here gives each of you the opportunity to be put in front of and be presented to different customers and clients. Ideas. I couldn't tell you how many times, and you chime in on this, Cindi,
Okay.
how many times we started talking about something and it started going down a different rabbit hole because we looked at it in a totally different and unique way. So you end up coming up with all kinds of ideas. Actually, you could probably keep yourself busy for the rest of your life. Do you agree with that, Cindi?
I totally agree with that, because a lot of, well, I won't even say a lot of times, sometimes Joe's exactly right. We started out looking at a project from a specific direction and realizing as we talked through it, you know, this isn't going to work. And we wouldn't have known that if we had not said it out loud and entertained the other person's input. So the ideas are invaluable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, personality. I have got a neat story here. A new personality ends up being born out of a joint venture. Now, Cindi and I, we started working together, doing some projects, creating some projects, software, everything else. And she sent this webinar to her list, just like I sent it to mine, and put the word out there. And she mentioned in her email that it was odd. And then I kindly replied back in my email that I didn't think it was so odd. Maybe we are odd, but this is not odd. But I have seen it posted today on Facebook. We could be billed as the odd couple in internet marketing. So who knows? Maybe this will go down a different rabbit hole again. But you end up getting a whole new personality out of this, and it's usually a lot better than it was to begin with.
That's
you
true.
By yourself.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing to this before we go on to the next point. Joe and I, prior to getting together, had both spoken individually. I mean, you speak to people, whether it's in a big presentation or you just talk to small groups showing them how to do something. And we had spoken individually before we started working together. But after about I don't know, I guess it was maybe our third project together, something like that, we were asked to speak in tandem, which was an interesting experience because if you think you know the other person and you think you work well together, being in front of a group of people presenting at the same time is a real different situation. But I was really touched by that invitation to speak together because to me that meant, yeah, hey, we have created a new personality. So it was kind of exciting and definitely different.
And regardless of how good you think you know somebody, you are always learning different things about them,
Yep.
about their learning styles and how they teach, and then just personal things in the sense of things that work for them and don't work for them. So
That's
it's
true.
a continually growing and ever-changing process.
I concur.
More money. Now I think we could all agree that we're here for some additional money to do whatever it is that we want to do. And out of a JV, you can typically bring in a lot more money than you would by yourself. One is because the products and whatever it is you're trying to accomplish is done a lot quicker. But two, you've actually doubled and a lot of times tripled and quadrupled your customer base because, again, you have your customers and your lists and your friends, and they have their customers and their friends. And we all have additional people that we know that would also promote it on our behalf. So it just kind of grows upon itself. So don't dismiss that at all. And then personal contact. And now see, this is one of those things too that I'm going to look back at Cindy and I'm going to say, what the heck do you mean by personal contact? Because you know what? This is what comes up when you guys present together.
That's exactly right. And we're even going to tell you the bottom line and the background behind why he's asking me this question. The reason is because we had notes to go with this presentation today, and neither one of us could get the notes to print out. So when you're presenting the presentation, you can't see the notes at the same time. So
actually though, I do know what it is.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, right.
Personal.
I was all pumped. Okay, continue.
But we have had that happen before in our presentation.
Yes, we have.
What are you talking about? But the personal contact, internet is lonely. We go inside our caves, we bury ourselves amongst all the pixels on our screens, and we get lost, sometimes to never come out for days, weeks, or months, sometimes never to be found again. So with a JV, it creates a partnership, a friendship, and it takes away the loneliness. We don't have to go to the Internet Marketers Anonymous meetings anymore.
IMA. We should start a new group of people who don't have JV partners called IMA. But I could not improve on that at all, and I'm not even going to try. That was good. Okay, here are some times when you know you need a JV or you think you might need a JV. One is when you have a great list but you don't have enough products. And I know you're thinking, how in the world could you have a big list and not have any products? You might have a big list if you're moving into a new category. Let's say you've been working in, I don't know, gardening. Okay, let's say you've been working in gardening and you decide you want to move into plans for buildings and sheds and stuff. It still kind of goes with the gardening idea, but you had so much fun creating a little shed that you decide you want to go into that market. Well, some of your gardening people would be interested, but not really all of them, because this is a little bit kind of a far reach for some of them. So you might have a really good list, but you don't have enough products to offer to your gardening people. So you might want to consider talking to somebody about working with their particular product in your list. If you have products but no list, for example, if you're moving into a new category and you want to promote that new category but you don't have those people, somebody else might have that list. You might want to launch into a new niche, sort of like a sub-niche of something that you've done, something more specific. And if you do, you may not know enough about it. Let's say you've been doing gardening, But now you want to go into specific types of flowers. Let's say, for example, exotic flowers. We'll even say orchids. Okay, you want to launch into orchids. Well, you don't know specifically about orchids, so you might want to go out there and find JV partners who do know about orchids. Sometimes you can't afford it alone. This goes back to the thing that Joe and I first met doing. We probably could have afforded to do the software alone, but to be honest, we got better software because we pooled our financial resources and our mental capacities and came up with something better because we didn't try to afford it alone. If you're unsure of how to develop a great idea, a JV partner can be invaluable for giving you ideas from an outside perspective. Joe, do you concur with that?
Yes, and I just want to add one other thing to this. If you find that you typically get sidetracked on things, that is a good time to find a partner and JV with them, because I'll be the first to admit it. I easily get sidetracked, and by partnering with people, it helps to keep me accountable, and it helps keep me on track, because again, I don't want to not only let myself down, but I also don't want to let the other people involved in the partnership down. So it's invaluable in that aspect.
Excellent point. And you know, you can't tell, I have to say this personally, I cannot tell that Joe gets off track. I just know he juggles a lot, and if you knew what all Joe dealt with on a daily basis, you would be amazed. I truly am amazed, and I tell Joe this all the time, wow, I can't believe you get as much done as you do. But you don't realize that he doesn't stay on track. So I guess JVs do work definitely in that regard. So Joe, I'm letting you take it here. Go for it.
Okay, what and who to look for. Okay, parallel markets. These are similar markets that you're already in. So, you know, Cindy and I obviously are in the IM market. And going back to our software story, had you ever developed a piece of software previous to that, Cindy?
I had never, no, I had not.
Okay, so it was a first for both of us. But, you know, in IM you got softwares, you've got product creation. Actually, here's a good example of it. I know I want to turn some of my products and down the road create products that are CD and DVD based. And Cindy has a world of knowledge in that. So she is like the perfect partner for me in that aspect, which is part of the reason why we did the CD Profits program together, in the sense Cindy had the expertise and knowledge, and then I helped her out in the background with the webinars and everything else.
Absolutely perfect, and he did a lovely job too, by the way.
Yeah. Equal work ethic. You want people that are gonna be accountable to you, but you want to be accountable to them. You're going to want hard workers, because you're not going to want people that are schlepping all the work off on you. And so, you know, when you talk to people and you get comfortable with them and you learn about them, and just in the conversations back and forth, you're going to find that you will typically gravitate towards people that do have an equal work ethic to yours.
I agree.
Yeah, positive reputation. Actually, as much as we hate to say this because we don't want to judge people per se, but reputation has a tremendous amount to do with what you're looking for. Because I can tell you this, if you're out there looking for a partner, you're not going to probably partner with somebody that has a bad reputation. It's not necessarily the best thing to have to bring up, but it is something that does need to be brought up, and you need to remember it's not only their reputation and you looking at them, but it's others also looking at you and your reputation. So you want somebody, again, with a positive reputation and that person that you can work with. Follow through. You know, is the person that you're partnering with somebody that's going to, again, follow through on what their responsibilities are? And again, these are all mirrored back onto ourselves, and we want to make sure we follow through with what we're doing. Somebody you can get along with. This is probably the most important thing right here, I think, because if you can't get along with that person, if you can't be friends, you're certainly not going to be business partners. Do you agree with that, Cindy?
Totally, wholeheartedly. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of like a marriage. If your marriage, if you don't get along with your spouse and you don't like them, how can that marriage last? Well, if you don't get along with your partner and you don't like them, then how is it going to last? And how is it even going to work out well? So definitely somebody that you get along with.
I agree.
And a lot of people don't think about this, but keep in mind that your competitors could possibly be the best partners for you. Again, everybody has complementary skills, meaning that you have strengths and weaknesses just like that other person or the other people you're involved with have strengths and weaknesses. And you can play on top of that, and you can put it to your advantage so that where the weaknesses are, they are covered by other people. And so it can definitely help you, take a look at the competitors in your niche and see is there something that you can do together.
Yeah, I
Cindi?
agree. The only thing I want to add to this slide is research. And the reason why I mention research is because it relates to two different sections here. One is the positive reputation. If you don't want to ask the person outright, which I really understand totally, okay, to people like you, you can always research this person online. And I'm not saying dig into where they live. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're doing work with somebody that is obviously a public person that there's information about online, readily available online, you might want to just check out what other people have to say about them and working with them and their experiences of dealing with that person. That'll give you some good information, and your competitors as well. Definitely research your competitors and keep track of what they're doing, because just because they're competing against you in the same area today does not mean that they will be focusing on exactly the same thing you are in 2 weeks or 2 months. So if they're exploring if they kind of veer off a little bit and they're exploring a sort of a parallel market at that time, it might be a good time to go back and talk to them about a possible JV at that point. So don't discount them just because they are your competitors.
Let me add something to what you were just saying.
Please do. Do you need to see the slide? You okay?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just flip back to it just for the heck of it.
I can do this.
Well, she was talking about the research, and I hadn't thought about this until you said it, and I know it's not really something that I did, but it's a good idea. You could set up a Google alert on yourself. One, if you don't have it, you should have one on yourself, but also the other person. That way, if you're working with people and, bad things are coming down the pipeline, one, you can know about it, but also you can let them know about it. So if it's something they need to take care of, that they can take care of it, because you got to remember you're involved with this person, and what they do does affect you.
Yeah, very true. That's a really good idea. See, I hadn't thought of that. See, this is a good point for having a JV going on. Okay, next let's talk about deciding what you want. And yes, you do need to decide before you go in exactly what you want. I have to also stress here that sometimes you don't know exactly what you want. You just kind of have a vague idea. Don't let that stop you, because even a vague idea of what you want is better than no idea at all. So here are some criteria you might want to consider when you're thinking about what you want. Do you want to accomplish selling X or making X amount of dollars in Y months, Y days, Y weeks, whatever? Let's say you want to make $10,000 in the next 2 months. Okay, that's something to keep in mind, because that is a specific goal. Do you want to reach a new market? Is that the direction you're going? Do you want to reach new potential partners even beyond the one that you're looking at working with now? Because especially if you're branching into a new market, this new JV partner can and possibly will open the door for you to meet people who are also in their market, who you might want to potentially JV with later. So just consider that. Do you want to grow your list? Do you want to get more people on your list who are in a competitor's list? Not if they're competing directly, but because we just talked about that. Do you want to grow your list? Do you want to create a product with someone? Do you want someone's expertise to help you create a product? Do you want to get it out there to the world? Do you have the product, but you don't have the list and you don't have the connections? Do you want to learn about a topic? Let's say, for example, let's go back to our gardening example for a second. Let's say you want to learn about orchids, but you don't know anything about them. Nothing would stop you from getting a JV partner to help you work on, for example, an ebook about orchids. You learn enough about orchids to go out there and recruit other JV partners who are experts in the orchid niche. So also, do you want to decrease your workload? Do you want to share what's coming down the pike with somebody else so you don't feel so overwhelmed? Joe, any input on this?
No, but you spoke about learning, and really all this goes together. Just remember, and we've said it a few times, and I think probably the important things we'll harp on more and more because we just don't want people to dismiss the simplicity of them. But by doing a JV, you're going to improve your skills. You don't have to be the best at something, but if you have an understanding of it and you can do it, then you can improve your skills, and you're going to get better at things, and you'll get a lot quicker at over time. And as the partnerships develop down the road, they're going to improve even more. One, with the people that you're working with, but also with the products and the results that you get with each other. All of it's going to improve. So when you're doing it, don't think that if your first one doesn't work out as great as you think it should, don't think that that should be the end of it. You do need to keep going. And just remember, the work improves as in the skill improves, and so does everything else. Cindi?
I totally agree. In fact, that reminds me of a little story. I know you may have heard of Henry Ford before. He's the guy who invented the Ford, the car and all that kind of stuff. Henry Ford did not start out life very successfully. He was a dropout, a high school dropout. I mean, all kinds of things. He was totally bankrupt. A lot of things were against Henry Ford. However, when he finally got where he was going, which, by the way, he accomplished what he was doing through a mastermind group, just a little FYI. But when the time came to start the Ford plant, he hired people who knew what he did not know, exactly what Joe just said. He didn't know everything, but he knew enough to hire the people who knew how to do what he didn't know how to do. And in so doing, when anybody came into his office and said, how do you accomplish this, or how do you make this happen? Explain to me how this happens. He would say, excuse me just a minute. And he would call down to the department where the person was working who knew that information, ask them to come to his office, and he would say, that he would introduce the two people to each other, and he'd say, this man is going to answer your question. So he was humble enough to realize he didn't know it all, but he was smart enough to realize he could hire people who did. And the same thing is true, exactly like Joe said. You will learn as you work with other people in a JV situation who know things that you don't know. Excellent point, Joe. Okay, let's talk about some ways to find JVs. This is getting to the fun part, because finding them is really, really the fun part. It's like getting out there and actually meeting the people. So first of all, consider friends, family, extended relationships, anybody that you might know directly or directly through another person is always a potential person to consider. People you know on Facebook. How many friends do you have on Facebook that you don't even know who they are? You could take some time and explore a little bit about those people. Just click on their Facebook page, and find out about them, find out what they do. You never know. They might be interested and be in the area that you're looking at. There are always forums. We always poke around in forums. Online friends or friends' reputation. Going back to the research that we talked about and Joe's example of using a, which is totally eluded me now, a Google Alert.
Google Alert.
I kept trying to say Google AdSense. I knew that wasn't right. AdWords. Anyway, using a Google Alert, you could Google Alert a specific phrase of a niche or whatever you're going to be working in and see what people come to mind on that. You can also go to networking events. This is my favorite thing. I'm just such a people person. Networking events are great because you actually get to talk to people face to face. Whether you are a member of your chamber, whether you're a member of Business Networking International, whatever you're a member of, or even if you're not a member. If you just go to networking events in your local area when they have them, like get-togethers, that's a great way of meeting new people and finding people who are in like industry or have things in common with you. You can also attend niche conferences and conventions. This was one of the places that Joe and I met one of our referral JV partners. We actually met her there, got acquainted. We met her, I don't know, 2 or 3 times there, wasn't it, Joe, before we did business with her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We met her at the first one, and then each time you went back, you saw that person and you talked to them, and you got more acquainted, and you just became friends, and it all started from that.
Yeah, it did, indeed. And JV live events. Now, this is the absolute best, because the whole reason why you're there is to do JVs, meet new people, find out who you have in common, find out what you have in common, and how you can benefit each other. Joe, anything you want to add to this before I give you the next slide?
Yeah, a couple of things. You mentioned the forums. The forums are really good because you can get on a forum and you actually can accomplish a lot of things. You can find out who the experts are in that forum, because that person's going to be one that people talk about. It's going to be one that people look to for advice. A lot of times they're going to actually be in the background. Maybe you don't know it, but they're going to be the moderators of the forums. They're going to have, higher post counts. So forums are really great to find people. One thing not mentioned was a list of past, current, previous customers or prospects that you may have. Nothing is stopping you from getting on that list and letting people know what you have in mind and seeing if there are any takers that would like to talk about a possible JV. And then that was it. There was one other thing, but I just went blank.
Okay, I love the prospects idea. That's a great idea, because these are the people who are used to hearing from you. They're used to knowing what you're doing, and if they're following you on a regular basis, they're obviously interested. So they're heading in parallel directions. That's I like that.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say.
I knew if I talked long enough, you'd get it.
That's right. The niche conferences and conventions, they're kind of like the party. You go to it, you have a common interest, but it's kind of like you don't really jump in and say, hey, let's do this and form a partnership, or let's even talk about this. A lot of times it's kind of like you got to get that touchy-feely emotional stuff out of the way. But as Cindy had mentioned, the JV live events, you're going specifically, and everyone is going specifically there to possibly find partners and different products to partners to work with, different products to work with and merge into. And so you can cut out all that touchy-feely stuff, the emotional side of it, the getting to know you side, and worry about that later, and actually find a group that are wanting to achieve the same thing you want. So definitely the JV live events. Cindy?
Yep, I concur. Okay, let's talk about how to know if it's good. Joe, you want to take this?
Okay. First of all, you want to look at what are your goals. Compare your goals. Do you have complementary goals, or are they conflicting? Because if you're going into this partnership with goals that actually compete and conflict with each other, it's not going to be a good marriage. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. Getting face to face, talking to that person and just spending, touchy-feely time with them, as I like to call it. Learning about them, just seeing what kind of person they are. What are their hobbies? What are their interests? Who's in their family? What do they like to do? How do they spend their off time? Is that the type of person that you would like to have as a friend? Because ultimately you do want to end up having them as a friend, because it just makes things so much easier. It's not just all about business. Now, I just mentioned a lot of this, but there's other things like you can go out to dinner, you can get on Skype calls together, and again, it's getting to know each other and spending that time with them. You're looking for something that you can see that there is a connection. Again, I'm going to go back to it, but would this person be a friend? Can you see yourself working with them? Do you feel comfortable with them? Are you excited about what's going on? If you're, talking with somebody about what you're wanting to do and you're discussing, a possible joint venture, if you start to get excited about it with them, then I can tell you right now that's probably a sure sign that you feel comfortable with them. So don't work on it harder to figure out if you do feel comfortable. Just remember, just the excitement alone proves it. And then also having clearly defined goals, roles, and tasks in the sense of who's going to do what. And you may even want to set timeline constraints, as in the sense of, this is when we plan on getting it done. And then as you're going through, make sure you keep each other up to date with what is going on. because you may run into a roadblock, and don't try to hide it from your partner, but let them know about it because they may have that solution for you. Cindy?
I just want to add one thing to that. When you have clearly defined goals and roles and tasks, each person has something that they've agreed to do. And that's the way you start out. However, as you do these things that you've agreed to do, there will come those things that you think, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't said I would do this part. And it just gets so bad, and it's not what you really want to do, that you have to regroup. Okay, so go go back to the other person and say, this isn't working for me. And if they don't want to do that part either, then talk about outsourcing, because just because you're JV partners doesn't mean you cannot outsource some of what you're doing. And Joe and I, we've done jobs together where I said, oh, I don't want to do this part. Do you want to do it? And he said, are you kidding? That's why I gave it to you.
That's right.
So when we did that, that was when we realized, okay, this goes in the outsourcing department. So don't be afraid to admit that, you know, a particular role that you've taken on is just not really you. But like Joe said, if you're honest, you know, it works out, and they know, and they can pay attention to that.
Go back to that a second, and let me add something to that. I mean, you know, just to tell you about Cindy and I, we both know a lot about the tech side of things. I don't really know that there's anything we can't do. But we also know there are things, like she said, we just hate doing. And, you know, if that's something the other person can do, then that's great. If it's something that neither one of you want to do and you want to outsource it, like she mentioned, one thing I would say is make sure that you understand what's involved in it before you outsource it. At least that way you know what to expect from the person you're outsourcing that to.
True.
Cindy?
Excellent point. I totally agree with that. Okay, let's talk about using a JV agreement. Sometimes you will want to use a JV agreement, and sometimes you might not want to. But let's just talk about it. You don't always need it, and here are some kind of good rules of thumb. When you're deciding whether or not to have an agreement, the very first thing you need to think about is, well, really, do I really, really need one? And you might not. Joe and I have never had a JV agreement. We've never had anything written down between the two of us, but we did write down the criteria for our software, and that was the very first, in fact, that's the very first thing we worked on together, was creating that document. What pieces were going to be in the software, how would it work, when the person did this, what would happen on the screen, where would they go, all that kind of stuff. And just designing the layout of that document was our very first thing together. But if you feel that you need a contract and you don't know this person well enough, you might want to consider using one. Now, when would you use a contract? And that's an excellent question, too. You have to kind of play this by ear, because each JV is going to be different from the one before. So keep some things in mind. Here are some things that you might want to include in an agreement, and you don't even have to call it a contract. You might just want to call it an agreement. And if you decide you want one, the sky is the limit on what you can put in it. I mean, Joe told me the other day that he had an agreement from somebody that he was looking at. How many pages did you say this thing was, Joe?
It was like 15, 20 maybe.
Okay.
It was like 56, 60, 70 different points.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now we're not advocating. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I was going to say, and there's nothing wrong with that, and Cindy and I spoke about this previously, a lot of times the contracts and the agreements are going to come out of where a person's background is.
Exactly.
You know, she and I are comfortable with not having a contract or a formal agreement, and then there may be times down the road that we feel we need to have one. And then a lot of times when I've seen agreements, it's from people that have the type of background that they're used to dealing with agreements. So, I mean, who you deal with is going to also a lot of times dictate whether you have that agreement or not.
Yeah,
Cindy?
I agree. So what can you include in one? You might want to include who's involved, the responsibilities of each person, and once again, this is totally up to you, the income and expenses. How will they be divided? How will they be allocated? Who gets what percent and where? And when? You know, there's a lot to be considered about the income and the expenses of the job. The management duties, these aren't just each person's responsibilities, but what is each person going to manage? Is one person going to handle the outsourcers if you deal with that? Is another person going to handle that? All those kinds of things. Your customer and prospect list, are you going to share it? Do you each have access to it after the project is over? Are you each going to contribute your customer and prospect list? Where is it going to come from? Also, you might want to consider how the agreement is going to end. Now, Joe and I have dealt with clients before together that we had agreements with, and in those agreements we always spelled out specifically how the agreement would end. We would say there needs to be 30 days notice, 60 days notice, whatever it was, to end the agreement, and at the point that that agreement is given, at the point that that notice is given, what will happen and how will things be dispersed, all that kind of stuff. So you might want to include any and all of these items plus some that we have not mentioned here because, as Joe said, there were 60-something items in this agreement that was like, I don't know, 15-something pages long. So depending on your background and how comfortable you are with the person you're working with, you might want to have more than this or not even have an agreement at all. Joe?
Yeah, the big thing is, to keep it simple and make it so that both parties are comfortable, because it can be long and drawn out and complicated, and you may lose momentum. And just remember that really an agreement is nothing more than what two or more people agree to. I mean, it's just whatever the final decision is made. And like I know personally, one of the things that makes it to where I don't feel I need an agreement is, in the end, I feel if I need to walk away from the projects I'm with the people that I'm in, that I would rather walk away with nothing but keep that friendship, because typically the people that I do partnerships with are like people I consider good friends and I'm just comfortable with. So to me it doesn't hurt my feelings to have to walk away as long as I can keep a friend.
I concur. I really want to be able to sleep at night and not wince when the phone rings. So I'm totally with you on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about when the JV is over. And by this is not a negative thing. This is just when you get to the end of it. So Joe, take it from here.
Yeah. Once you're done with your joint venture, list the pros and the cons of it. What worked good, what didn't work good. Where can you improve at? Just go through and list those things, and even ask the other people their opinion. First do the list on your own, and then go back and do it jointly, because as you're going through it, you're going to think of different things. Were your goals met, and maybe what goals did you not think about that need to be added to it next time? What is important to you, and just think about, did it work? How was the success of the project that you're working on, and how was the success in working with those people? You could have it where working with the people was successful, but the project wasn't. So why? And it could also be the other way around. The project could have been successful, but you feel the people you worked with were not successful in the sense of what they put forth and all. What can be improved? Improvement is probably the biggest thing I look at on everything I do. Oftentimes I got to remind myself I don't need to make it perfect in the beginning, but to do it and get it out there and make it so that I'm proud of it, and then look at it as in what can be improved upon. And again, look at it separately, but then come back together and look at it together jointly, because you are going to have different points of views, and you're going to look at things differently and think differently when you're doing your what's the word I'm looking for?
Evaluation of what went on?
Yeah,
Okay.
When you're doing your evaluation of what went on.
Okay.
Expectations. Were your expectations met? Were the other party's expectations met? And again, are there expectations you need to add next time? Do you need to necessarily draw the line? Because you may find that you do some joint ventures in the beginning and you let things slide, and then in your mind you're thinking, I'm not going to let it slide anymore. And from that point forward, your expectations are changing and your lines are drawn in different places. So just look at what your expectations, what made you the happiest? What did you enjoy the most? And, this can be the time you have together. It can be the results. It can actually also be the technical aspect and the things that you did, what made you happy, and, what did you learn that you enjoyed? Because remember, the things that you enjoy the most, you're going to do better at them and you're going to be quicker at them. So just look at those things. And then finally, look at you. What could you personally have done better? Maybe is there something maybe you did that you're not real happy with and you're maybe even a little embarrassed about or ashamed of? It's not a time to beat yourself down, but it's an opportunity for reflection and a time for you to change things in your life and even be a better person and the better person that you want to be. Cindy?
I think you said it better than I could have said it myself. I have absolutely nothing I can add to that. I think it was perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope everybody recorded that because you probably won't hear me do that again. Okay, now, that's all there is. Now I have a question for you, and I'd like you to go to the question box. Did we deliver on our promise? Did we tell you everything we were going to tell you? Did we promise you we would tell you about today? Like what is a JV, how to do it, where to find the people, yada, yada, yada. So go to your question area and type in a Y or a yes, and did we tell you everything we promised to tell you today? Yes, no,
Good.
maybe?
Yes. The yeses are streaming. And see, we ask you that because we want to make sure that we're doing what we promise.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're giving you what you need.
And we're not wasting your time on a Saturday afternoon. That's the whole point.
Yeah, and just a couple of other comments, Susie, is they love the slides.
Oh, I want to tell you where I got these slides, okay? Because this is, and I don't even have an affiliate link for this. This is nothing, okay? But I want to tell you where these came from. They came from a little place called crystalgraphics.com. It's a membership site. And thank you so much for that comment. That was very kind. It's a membership site, and you join, I don't even remember how much it is, but you join once, and you get access to everything for a whole year. And these are the kind of PowerPoint presentation slides they have. They are unbelievably well done. I love the quality of their stuff. So that's just a little ad for them that they didn't even ask for, but thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate it. But that's exactly right. We didn't want to waste your day. We didn't want to get you out here under false pretenses or anything. We wanted to literally give you something you could take away and use today. So hopefully we gave you, some actual hands-on stuff that you can use. But before you go, I want to give you our opportunity. This is your opportunity to be a part of JV Dealmaker Experience. And we told you at the beginning we were going to tell you some specifics about it. Before I go on, I want to tell you when it is and where it is. It's going to be on September 10th and 11th, 2011 in Atlanta, Georgia. And Joe and I will both be there, and we're both looking for new JV partners. Not that we're not content with each other, okay? I mean, we are. Don't get me wrong about that. We are content with each other, but there's never any need to stop looking for other people to do business with and make money with, because there are tons of potential people out there. Hey, there's you out there, and you're the people that we want to get to know and possibly do joint ventures with if you are interested. So let me tell you a little bit about what JV Dealmaker is. It's a live, in-person, 2-day event, and to be honest, I have it circled on my calendar in red, and I have my plane ticket printout here beside me. I would ruffle the paper, but I've got to move too many things to let you hear it. But let me tell you what we're going to be doing at JV Dealmaker, because I'm so excited about this. I just love to mingle with people and find out what people are doing and see if we can make more money together. So here's what's included in JV Dealmaker. We're going to have JV Pitch, which is where you actually craft your introduction to present to people what it is you have to offer in the JV. We're going to be having JV Explorer, which is going to show you exactly what to say and do first at the beginning before you do anything else. Once you have your pitch crafted, what to say and do for people when you first meet them to get to know them and find out if it's going to be a good match. We talked about that a little bit today. Then we're going to have JV Generator, which is a group activity. It's where one person is going to go to the front of the room, and if you're thinking this is going to be a hot seat where everybody throws spears at you and calls you names and stuff, it isn't. It's the exact opposite. You are featured because the room is going to combine their total intelligence and idea repository to help you figure out how you can use the talents and skills that you have to present to other people for a possible JV with the other people in the room. I just think that's the coolest thing. Then we're going to have JV Connector, which is where you can meet other people face to face and actually talk to them and discover those who best meet your ideal JV needs. So I think that's exciting too. You know, you're going to see these people face to face in this whole weekend, but this is just a specific time to do this particular thing. Then, after the formal stuff of the day is over, we're going to have a JV Mixer, which is just kind of a casual get-together, which once again is reinforcing what we talked about earlier, where you find out what the other person is like. What do they enjoy doing? What kinds of things are they into business-wise? I can remember the very first day I ever met Joe. We had no idea we were ever going to do a JV together. We were putting manuals together at the back of a room for a conference we were setting up for. He started out putting up the equipment at the front of the room and making sure the microphones worked and all that. And then when he finished that, he came back to the back of the room where I was putting together manuals on the table, the registration table, and he said, "Can I help?" Well, I was impressed by that just to start with, and I said, "Well, you betcha." So he sat down and was helping me put these books together. And I said, "So tell me about your family." And he started telling me about his wife and his kids and how old they were and what they were doing and all these kind of things. And I felt like I really got to know him that time as we were just sitting there at the table. That's what this casual get-together is all about, the JV Mixer. Find out if you like these people. Are they potential friends? Are they the kind of people you want to hang with and work with? Are they the kind of people you want to make money with? Okay, that's day one. That's just day one. Now, here's day two. I get excited on day two, too. Okay, JV Broker. This is the first thing for day two. We're going to put people together who should be doing business with each other. This is when you get to be the employment counselor. This is when you pull in the people who have the idea with the people who have the idea. And suddenly, when the two ideas merge in the middle, they become this explosive power and product that can just do massive amounts more than they could do on their own. So you get to actually be the matchmaker and bring people together. Then we have JV Spotlight. This is the same thing I told you about that happens on Saturday, the day before, which is where a lucky person gets to go to the front of the room, and chances are more than one person will get to do this at a time, too. Not concurrently, but, you know, in succession, because there's like an hour and a half designated for this. So I can guarantee you there's going to be more than one person at the front of the room at each of these times. But if, for example, you wanted to do it on Saturday and time ran out, you have another shot at it on Sunday. So just let the power of the group come together and all that brain power to help you figure out what your best ideal offer is and how you can put it to the best use. Then we get to the JV Deal Maker. This is a more advanced workshop setting where you're going to actually learn some very proprietary and advanced JV techniques and concepts. Really cool stuff. This may be one of the biggest helpful things that you will encounter in the entire weekend. Then I just picture all these people just going wild. This is the JV Frenzy. This is where you have like an hour and a half to go out there and finally get to talk to the people that you've been saying, "I'm going to get back to you, I'm going to get back to you." And they're the people that you're thinking, "I've got their name written down and I know what they do and I've got to see this person before the weekend is over." So this is when you have your final shot. So if you've been putting off talking to somebody extensively and you really want to find out what they're doing, this is your time. So put this on your calendar because you'll want to know about this. Then on Monday morning, we end with breakfast. Oh my gosh, breakfast is good. Anyway, but the coolest thing about having a JV breakfast is that you're talking to this person in another casual, relaxed atmosphere over, I don't know, eggs and toast and bacon and waffles and all that kind of stuff, and maybe even fruit if you're a fruit person. But I will willingly give up my fruit so that you can have my fruit for your breakfast if you would like it. So I will be interested in hearing at the JV breakfast how you did over the weekend, how many people you partnered with, what do you have on your plate for your JV horizon, and everything coming up. Now, you're probably wondering at this time, I don't know, know about this. Is this okay? What if I get involved and I don't like it? And you have a very good question, and I totally understand. Don't worry. The whole thing is 100% risk-free. You absolutely risk nothing, because here's the way it works. There's a money-back guarantee on the weekend. And if you decide after paying and after getting there that this just wasn't right for you, when day one is over, before day two starts, if you go to the person who's sponsoring this and you say, you know, this just wasn't exactly what I was looking for, don't worry. He's going to refund your money with a smile, a handshake, send you on your way, and you will part as friends. And I can say this because the person who's putting this on is a personal friend, and I would do a JV with him any day of the week because I totally and completely trust him. When I was introduced to him for the first time, the man who introduced me said, I want you to meet my good friend Mark Hendricks. He is the only internet marketer I know that I would leave my wallet with. And that is the honest truth. I've never forgotten that statement, and I totally concur with it and believe it to this day. So,
You know, I think I've left mine with him before.
I think you have too. In fact, you've
Yeah.
bought a new wallet with him, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So there will be absolutely no questions asked if this turns out to not be right for you. So Mark totally and completely believes in no unhappy customers. Now, why should you act today? Well, there's really only two really main reasons. Because number one, this is the absolute best time to JV because of so many reasons that are just too numerous to go into here. But you know why, because we discussed them today. There are so many benefits to actually JVing with somebody. And secondly, because today and for an undisclosed period of time, and this is not a scarcity tactic, I'm very serious. That's what it says on the website, and I don't even know how long this rate is going to be here. But I actually have a secret discount code that I'm going to give to you at the very end of the webinar that is going to make this much, much more exciting for you financially. Now, JV Dealmaker normally goes for $4.97, and it would be worth every penny because if you divide it by the number of sessions that we have, you're barely spending anything for each of those sessions that I described to you. However, that's not your investment, okay? Your investment in this opportunity is only $197. Now, I told you, it is a tremendous discount. And as I said, I'm just so excited about this weekend. It's going to be a great time. And I really, 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 really hope that you will be there because I would love to find out if we could do a JV together. Because, number one, it would be fun. Number two, it would be very lucrative. And number three, I could introduce you to Joe, and we could make some signals behind his head and his face, you know, not let him see what we're doing, and we could just do funny things. But it would be a great time to get together, hear what you're working on, know what you want to do. So if you are interested, here's what I want you to do. I want you to visit cindydawson.com/JV. And Cindi is C-I-N-D-I. If you're just listening to this later on an MP3, it's cindydawson.com/JV. And at that website, you can sign up for JV Dealmaker in Atlanta on September 10th and 11th of this year. Okay, are you ready? I've made you wait till the very end, and I'm not going to make you wait anymore.
Wait a minute, Cindi.
Yes, I'm waiting.
I think you left something actually out.
What did I leave out?
Now, I may be wrong, so I'm going to say that right now. So if I am wrong, correct me.
Okay.
But actually, isn't that price good for two people?
You're right, Joe. See, Joe. This. Hello. Wait, just a minute. Let me get serious. Hello. This is why you need a JV partner.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. See, and we didn't even plan that. That's just the honest truth.
No, I actually just rushed to the website and I'm looking through it real quick, and I didn't see it, so which is why I threw it out there real quick.
Okay, so see, you are really, really good because I did look at it earlier today, and you're right, it is on there. So now be sure if you're going to invite somebody to go that you actually ask them ahead of time if they want to go, because if they come with you, if you sign up for two people and then it takes that slot away from somebody else who might want to sign up and come. So make sure that they want to be there before you sign them up or before you sign up for two people. But if you want to bring somebody, you can bring a business partner, you could bring a spouse who's in a different area who focuses in something totally different. Like if you're into gardening and your spouse is a school teacher, anything, it doesn't matter. Bring that person with you and take advantage of this special offer. So
Yeah, and we're not sure how long that's going to be
no,
either.
we're not. We're
Yeah.
not. And to be honest, I mean, I just talked to Mark yesterday, and we don't know. We really, seriously don't know. He's not telling me. So, anyway, I'm not saying I'm any big person to tell. I'm just saying he didn't say. So we're not pulling the scarcity thing on you. This is just honest. So to get this special discount rate and to be able to bring someone with you that you could even share a room with. Now, this is, of course, if they're in your family or something, but you could actually bring somebody with you, go to lunch, go to dinner together, have a good time, stay an extra day for a holiday or something. Write the thing off as a business expense because that's what you're going for. Anyway, to take advantage of the special offer, use the secret code EARLYBIRD. This is all run together in lowercase letters. Early bird, and you can get in for the special discount rate of only $197. Now I just have to say one more thing, and that is I really, really hope to see you there because Joe and I are going to be there. We're going to be having a good time meeting people, making deals, talking to people about how we can work together and come out with more money. And I would dearly love to meet you, seriously. I mean, I've met Joe, and I would dearly love to introduce you to Joe because as much as I joke on Joe, he is a wonderful business partner, and I just can't even tell you how much I truly value having an indispensable JV partner. So, Joe, anything you want to say at this point? I've been telling what we're going to do, so you take it if you want to.
One, just thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And two, we really do want to see you there. And I can tell you right now, if you're an expert on a topic or you know about a topic, I wouldn't mind doing a quick and easy partnership with you just to show you how easy it is. And I've already got something in mind. So if you do go, get with me while you're there and let's just talk about it because I just want to show you, one, how easy it is to start it, and two, where you can go with it. Cindy?
Yeah, and he's not kidding about that. He actually told me this the other day. He said, this is what I'm going to do. I said, all righty then. So the reason why we wanted to present this to you today is because we believe so firmly in JVs. We believe so firmly in benefiting yourself and your business with a JV. So we wanted to present you with this information. We wish you the greatest success in dealing with JVs, and we would dearly love to see you in Atlanta in September. And thank you everybody who was here today and took time out of your busy Saturday schedule to be with us today. So I think that's all I have to say, Joe, unless you want to say anything else.
Nope. Thanks, guys, and we really appreciate you a lot.
Yes, we do. Bye-bye.